Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Heroes Peak podcast. I am your host, Chris, and we're here to talk about entertainment, culture, and whatever the hell we feel like. And today on the podcast, it's just the two best-looking people of the podcast. It's me and Mike. We decided not to do our Chippendale routine this time around. I'm giving Mike a break. I think he's got a hernia. How you doing, Mike?
Hanging in there. We're going to talk Northman today. Excited.
The Northman.
That's right.
We're going to put on pelts and scream at the moon, or growl, or roar. Or
pelts. No, you're thinking French Canadians.
I thought you guys just used maple syrup for that.
No, that's back in the day when they used to trade skins. Remember?
Right. Yeah. Trade and pelts. All right. So, interesting thing about The Northman. The Northman is one of these movies that came out this year that really had film Twitter all a-buzz. Mm-hmm. So we had Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I plan to be watching this weekend. We might be talking about next week. We had The Last Duel came out, and The Green Knight.
Yeah.
And everybody was freaking out about how this is what people should be watching in the cinema. This is what MCU should be, should die, and we should get all Last Duels. And so I was really interested going into this movie as to what I was going to get, especially after seeing talk of, oh my God, it's like a bro's wet dream. Why is this not making, $300 million?
Right.
I don't know. You tend to do Facebook. I tend to do Twitter. So I don't, There tend to be kind of very separate social medias. Did you see any of that conversation happening over on your side?
No, I mean, most of the stuff is still Marvel, DC, blah, 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 right? So we don't get, I don't hang out. I think if you want those discussions on Facebook, you got to find the art house groups, you know what I mean? The art film lovers and things like that. Because that's where I would classify this movie. This is definitely a movie for art film lovers, right? This isn't your mainstream.
Absolutely, I agree.
Film, yeah. So, not to say I enjoyed the movie actually very much. I wasn't excited by the trailer and stuff. I was like, oh, another smash 'em up,
well, that was the weird thing. I didn't think the trailer. As we get into it, we'll talk about more the violence and all that, but I didn't feel like the trailer sold it as the kind of more arty art house style movie it was.
Yeah,
I felt like it was trying to sell it as a Gladiator or Conan or something.
Yeah, more on like on the Braveheart side of it. So, so I was reading that the director didn't have the final say in the final cuts of the movie and stuff like that. And he wasn't happy about it. So I imagine he didn't have much to do with the trailer edits as well. Right. So,
yeah, but I would say out of what they presented in the movie, it doesn't feel like, even if someone told me they had pushed this towards the action-y side, I'd be like, did they? Wow. Well, there wasn't a lot there to do. We'll get into that. The way they advertised it as this kind of revenge drama period thing, that's not an automatic moneymaker. And seeing it as an art house film, the word of mouth isn't like, oh man, this is the next 300, this is the next Gladiator. Right. You got to go see this in the theater. No, people, that's not the word of mouth you're getting. It's not the advertising you're getting.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
You've heard of this. You've seen this, right? You know what that is.
It is unavoidable. It is your destiny.
Is this not why you are here?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Knock that shit off.
Well, I did So, all right. So this movie, 2022, The Northman, released only in theaters, directed and written by Robert Eggers.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Eggers also directed The Witch and The Lighthouse,
Yeah.
other art
I
house films with
so
reasonable
I hear The
budgets.
Lighthouse though is amazing with
I heard The Witch is really good too.
Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson in The Lighthouse together. It's
Mhm.
a good art house dramatic. It's one of those character driven because you don't have a bunch of scene shots, you don't have a bunch of locations, you don't have a bunch of special effects. It's two guys in a room like 12 Angry Men, and it's all
Mhm.
about the
Mhm.
story and the characters, right? So and the acting. So I hear it's really good.
Oh yeah,
And
and sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
I was gonna say
Finish.
yeah. So he's this is in his wheelhouse. These types of projects that he does, right? They're similar. So
Yeah, I watched some notes about him. Basically, everybody says he's a geek about the time periods when he sets. So
mm,
I was watching this one thing where they were talking about the the longboats that they used within the movie were made out of the correct wood that the longboats would have been made out of,
yeah.
and the hairstyles were within reason of what and the clothing was the materials and the signs on the signs on their shields and
Hmm.
like, and I have a feeling like a lot of budget went to just studying the culture for way
Yeah,
too
probably in
long.
props too. Yeah, props and set design, and I imagine. So
Yeah.
accuracy, yeah, I would say that this film is pretty accurate for the time period and for the sagas and the stories, right? Things like that.
Right.
So, um,
And
because it
the
was also written by an Icelandic guy, Sjón is his name.
sh- is that how you pronounce it? Because
Yeah,
that's what I was
Sjón,
trying to figure out.
Sjón,
Sean.
something like that.
Sean.
I'll ask my wife
Sean.
later. She'll tell me.
Yeah, an Icelandic poet and author.
Right.
Um, Now, this is what I found really interesting is this is the story of Amleth, the tale of Amleth,
Hmm.
written by Saxo Grammaticus, is actually the story Hamlet is based on.
Yeah, I read that too. I thought that was interesting because I saw the similarities. I read that first, then I watched the movie, and then
Hmm.
I said, "Yeah, I could see that. Okay, very similar."
And but then I listened to the story of Amleth and I went, okay, this is like the original tale is
Yeah,
like, oh, no wonder we updated this a bit because man, this
right.
is tedious. he's like he's like to survive, he played dumb. Is that
Hmm.
whatever the words they used, and would cover himself in muck and mud and live in his mom's basement or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's a little different than this movie was.
uh,
Um, so it was funny to hear. It was cool to hear. It was kind of like after the Green Knight, I went back and listened to the story of the Green Knight that it was based on, and it was slightly different, but it was interesting to hear. This one is a farther afield than the Green Knight one, but
yeah. So this one actually reminded me the way it was shot reminded me more of the Denzel Macbeth we watched recently. Did you notice
right,
a lot of
yes,
the front camera views on the actors? It almost looked like to me like they had these actors doing these performances in a room by themselves with because
hmm
it's supposed to
hmm
be they're talking to somebody, but you get a lot of camera views of dead on to the person. Then you cut to the other side of and the other person, and I'm like, boy, these people don't even need to be in the same room together. They could just be doing their lines and then splicing them together because it doesn't look like they're in the same room.
yeah. The camera work did not seem like it was grand epic I mean, there's some great location shooting and stuff,
Yeah,
but
so
like,
when they're on the boat trying to escape,
hmm
oh, some
hmm
beautiful scenic shot there. But
but you're right. Like when they're in the hut and he's
yeah,
talking to the queen, like it's like face and then
right, and the
and
face,
then
yeah.
face, and you're like, oh, so this isn't like the most dynamic camera work that I've seen,
No,
right?
but
It
Macbeth
wasn't.
reminded me of that. Like the way
Yeah,
God, who directed the Macbeth? It was the Coen brothers, right? who did this
Was
Macbeth.
it? I don't
I think
remember
so.
off the top of my head.
Yeah, they tried to do that same kind of style with better lighting though, with brighter lighting because it was black and white. But the
Right.
same
Yeah.
kind of in your face kind of close up shots.
Right. And I think they were kind of going for this really specialized stage production, but with high budget look. Whereas
Yeah,
this I would have thought he would have gone for more slightly different staging and I forget what it's called when where the people have the specific place they stand and I
yeah,
forget,
you're
but
blocking and stuff.
you're
Yeah.
blocking, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, it felt a lot of the spots, unless they were outside, it felt very individual when things were close up happening.
Yeah, yeah, and that did Green Knight reminded me a bit of that too when they
Right.
were indoors as well. So.
All right. So this stars Alexander Skarsgård, who
Mm.
is a freaking beast. Um I don't even not know why he is not a superhero yet. Just because, like, oh my god, this guy
Well,
was.
his father's in Thor, so
Oh, is he?
his father is Eric Selvig.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah,
That's why I keep like I heard the name and then I
yeah,
saw the guy and I'm like, I thought I knew the name, but I guess not. Like maybe I'm just missing something. Oh, that's
right.
his son. Okay,
But
that
I don't
works.
know if you remember Alexander from True Blood. Did you ever watch True Blood?
I actually never did.
Okay, he
I
was one of
kind
the
of one of
vampires.
those I meant to, but I didn't. Yeah,
Yeah, he was great on that show,
right.
and
But he got
I think he did a great job in this one.
mhm.
Uh,
He got super buff
yeah, he
and was
did.
super intense. Like
Yeah,
that. What I would call out for his performance was whenever he had to go intense, he was all in. Like he
yeah,
didn't hold
for
back
sure.
at all.
Yeah, he's got. I want to see him in more stuff for sure
Mm-hmm.
because he's
I
got
don't think
that.
he got too much emotional range to do minus closer to the end of the movie. He got real intense and then it was like real sad, like were his two
Yeah,
main emotions.
I don't.
Uh,
So I'm trying to think of because he was also in the Battleship movie. Remember the Hasbro Battleship movie?
oh, I watched that recently. That
But
was
he
so
dies. Yeah,
terrible.
he dies like halfway, right? Because he's on the ship and he gets killed.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I
Now
don't.
I remember.
I'm trying to think of a lighter role that he's been in besides True Blood and Battleship, but I can't think of it. I'll have to look it up, but
All right.
I'm sure he can
Uh,
do it. Yeah.
also, Nicole Kidman as Queen Gudrun.
Creepy, crazy
Um,
mom.
oh my god, that if there was a shock in this, like her spot there, we'll get to it. Spoiler warning if you
Yeah.
haven't seen it. Um, there is a shocking twist of events that really did get me when I was almost falling asleep watching this
Yeah,
movie.
that one actually got me too. I was like, "Whoa, damn it!"
Um,
So, but we
uh,
can give it a. We'll spoil it because I doubt you know. But
anybody's watching without watching it first,
right. So
or if you're really wondering whether you should watch it, know
yeah.
that at 60 minutes I paused and went, have I been watching this for 2 hours? And I hadn't. I'd only been watching it for 1 hour. So just that that alone, but then the last like half an hour,
Mm,
amazing. Amazing.
yeah. I So it turns out the the basic. I'm going to give everyone a quick rundown of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Alexander Skarsgård plays Amleth. He's the son of the king, and
War
his mom,
Raven. King War Raven.
King War Raven, and Nicole Kidman is the queen, Queen Gudrun, and they all live together in this village. And the uncle comes back from war and kills the father, and tries to kill the son, the young son, Amleth, but Amleth gets away, goes
Mm-hmm.
away for a few years, and then he comes back on his revenge quest.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out when he meets his mom reveals to him that no, I asked your uncle to kill your father and kill you because I hated your father and I didn't want you to come back and
Mm-hmm.
revenge, get your revenge against us. So
Damn. Like that twist.
shocking
Um,
twist.
shocking twist.
Yeah.
Especially yeah, we'll go through some more of that. Ethan Hawke plays King Warraven, his dad, uh,
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning while he was a child. So you don't see him; they don't interact when they're adults. This is
Right.
only when he was a child. He takes his son into a special like a
Yeah.
manhood ritual uh, in this cave where they possibly take drugs. They drink something, possibly some. And this I want to get into
They throw something in a fire or something that
the
makes them hallucinate.
hallucinogenics
Yeah.
and the witches and stuff. And they howl and they scream and he makes his son promise that if he dies, he will avenge him, and
Hmm.
that basically that moment is kind of a base for his future self
Right.
that we'll discuss. Um, but there's some the kind of the coolest part is the visuals, and there's a visual of what they call the Tree of Kings, which
Hmm.
starts the camera pans inside the body to the beating heart of his father because he basically shoves the kid's hand into his wound,
Yeah.
right? And you see the beating heart, and it takes up the entire screen, and then the ventricles start to form what art you've seen in Norse artwork that way
They call it Yggdrasil, the Tree of Life.
yeah, the weaving
Yeah.
style that you see in
Hmm.
the trunks, and that creates this the tree of life, but in this case specifically marks the people in his family, the kings in his family tree. It's all men.
You're right.
So it's a really cool visual, and it really shows how tight these two are and how much he wants to be, how much his religion and his teachings are like built into this kid. So we have Clear Spang, who's plays Fjorn or Volnir,
Fjolnir.
the
Like
Volnir the
Mjolnir.
brotherless, which is his
Yeah.
uncle, which is
Hmm.
who's our main antagonist, and
Yeah.
the person he's called the brotherless, and everybody knows it's because he killed his brother, which I
Right.
found it funny. Like it wasn't a secret.
Yeah, we
I
don't
was like,
actually see him too much in the movie. Like a couple key
not
scenes, but other than
not till
that,
about
he's not.
halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought,
Um.
whenever he was on screen, he was commanding. So I thought
Right.
that guy did a good job.
And then, as you mentioned, we get a Bjork and a Willem Dafoe
Willem Dafoe.
uh, cameos as witches. They're both their own kind
Yeah,
of
well, he was like
seers or
he
witches.
was really like the court jester in the beginning, but then he was
Was
brought
he
back.
the same?
Yeah, that's the
Okay, so
same guy, the
that's
fool
such
they
a
called him.
weird. That was a
Hmm.
weird scene, which
Hmm.
obviously made sense later because right in the beginning, the queen, before the murder happens, the queen offers the uncle her wine for a
Right.
celebration. They're celebrating whatever they did, and the court jester gets up and goes, "Oh shit, man!" Basically, he's like, "King, are you seeing this? Your brother's getting some from your queen or something. I forget whatever the
It was
joke
something about
is."
the queen's cup is wet for your brother.
Right? Yeah, something like that. And then the uncle gets real pissed, but the king's
Yeah.
like, "Dude, it's just a joke. Just calm
Right.
down." But
Well,
obviously,
we know what happened to the jester after he killed his brother, right? He went after him, and killed him too.
he
So
did kill him, but the jester was right. That's
yep, exactly. So we get to this scene in the cave.
all right.
Where we get another seer who's got the head of the Willem Dafoe, right?
Okay, well, before that, we there's
Hmm.
another one that happened. So
Okay.
so we've already talked about the opening, the relationship, the manhood ritual. So there's this big time jump when he escapes the island on a boat, and
Hmm.
now we've got full fledged Conan version of young Amleth, um, and he's a part of this war or like raiding party, and we kind of get the one of the two big action scenes in this, and
Right.
that's where the raiding party gets all um hopped up on whatever. I don't know if they're doing anything. They're just screaming at the fire as they're preparing themselves.
Yeah.
um I foresee a lot of frostbite from hazing rituals and stuff like that
Uh
in
huh.
the future from frat parties as they try to recreate this scene, by the way. So they get prepared and then they attack some town. No name, doesn't matter. It's in believe it's supposed to be in Sweden or whatever, from what I understand, the Rus people.
Yeah.
And you get this cool tracking shot that basically follows him from outside to attacking to climbing the walls to jumping in and just killing people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm imagining all sorts of we've had some of these before. I actually kind of thought of the Suicide Squad one where Peacemaker and
Mm-hmm.
Idris Elba, I forget what his character name is. They're going through the town and they're just killing all of the people in
Right.
the camp.
The
It's
competition.
kind of this,
Yeah.
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 It's kind of that same thing with him, where he's just slaughtering people and murdering people, and
Right.
they're capturing people and they burn people alive, and like he's not particularly interested in all of the other stuff that's happening. It seems
Mm.
like he's just kind of there. Like he's all okay to get up and kill people, but like he's
Yeah.
not
It was
involved
more
in.
like, to me, it was more like he's in the tribe, but he doesn't feel like he wants to be part of the tribe. He's just
Yeah,
there
he's
because he has to be there right now. Like,
yeah,
that's it.
he wasn't taking prisoners.
Right.
He wasn't hanging out with the guys
Yeah. While they
afterwards,
were raping the women and doing whatever.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Killing the kids. He
Yeah.
wasn't doing any of that. He was like, I'm just gonna kill the guys here and then I'm done. So
As long as I just
interesting.
want to eat later, that's all.
Yeah.
So.
So then we have him where that night he kind of goes off on his own and he goes into this empty hut, burned out hut, and he runs in. This is where he runs into Bajork. Bajork.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she's got crazy wild, cool makeup, cool dress. Like her costume was great, but she
Yeah.
is definitely some witch seer that's not really there, and that is telling him, "Hey, you forgot. Like you have a destiny. You have a vengeance that you said you would do." And
Right.
I found it interesting because it kind of meant like, did you get too far off your path of what you were said you were going to do? And it was a kind of a cool scene.
Yeah.
Now this is the funny part to me. He needs to find his uncle because she didn't tell him where his uncle was. But super easy, barely an inconvenience. Apparently, some slaves are being sent to this king who killed his brother,
Right.
and they're out in Iceland in the middle of nowhere, and he lost all his land, and so luckily there's a boat going there, and like he doesn't have to search for it, just
Right. Plot device.
plot device. Yeah, exactly. So he cuts his hair, brands himself, and sneaks onto a slave boat,
Mm-hmm.
and off to vengeance he goes.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is this taking so? This isn't take this plot wise. This seems very quick, but movie time, this felt like it took forever
Agreed.
because we get to this point where he's now on the island. We meet his uncle. Now they're trying to set up his uncle as sort of his like a decent king, even though he's got slaves and he rapes women. But
Yeah,
like
because the
down
opening
to
scene
earth and
is, he's with they're examining the slaves, and then we get the scene with his son, and he's showing
his
him as a
asshole
caring
kids. Yeah.
father,
Mm-hmm,
things
mm-hmm.
like that. So yeah, I
Yeah,
see
we
where you're
meet the
going.
yeah, like his kids are real jerks and like the way they treat people and think high of themselves even though they're just glorified sheep farmers kind of thing.
Right.
Okay, so this is where we've met on Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays what did I have it? Olga of the Birch Forest, his
Yeah.
future wife and lover kind of.
Yeah. So she was a slave as well. She got
Mm-hmm.
captured, and then she
And
was on the boat.
she recognized him immediately for what he was too.
Right.
Another interesting little plot device is like at no point was she fooled by his disguise.
Yeah.
Just he starts to live his life as a slave in order to get close, but he doesn't want to take vengeance quite yet. First, he's got to go to another vision. So this is where we get the head of Willem Dafoe as a which I thought that was rather convenient too. Hey, by the way, I kept this just for you.
Yeah.
I knew you were coming back. So here's under a blanket the mummified head of Willem Dafoe to give him another vision, and this is where we learn about the Skeleton King, and right.
Right.
Um, Now again, he doesn't. He gets the sword. We already talked about the whole Skeleton King, but he doesn't go revenge right away. He's like, I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna make this work for me. And we get this weird kind of area where he's torturing, like mentally torturing the people around the
Mm-hmm.
king. Right? He's
Yeah.
killing a guy, and nobody knows who's doing it, so they're blaming demons.
Right.
And then this is the weirdest part for me. For some reason, he gets recruited to be on a field hockey team.
It was
Like
almost like
this,
Quidditch without flying brooms.
right? I know. It was like, and they're like, "Hey, can you fight?" And you're like, "Oh, okay. So they need to defend their land. They're going to go to battle." No, he's on like a field hockey squad,
Yeah.
and like they're battling these nasty, like bloody competitors, like who like no rules kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but I don't know what the kid, the king's son comes out, and like he protects the son because he got into the field when he shouldn't have, and he beats the
Yeah.
hell out of a guy, and like gains their trust for no reason because it really doesn't get him closer to doing anything that I can
Yeah.
tell.
That was kind of a waste, but yeah.
I mean, if you're telling a long tale and you're just kind of whatever, but it just as a movie that should have probably been 20 minutes shorter
Mm-hmm.
than it
At
was.
least. Yeah.
That really, it really was kind of a weird side tale of, hey, by the way, there's this cool sport. So we get this is where we get, he finally goes in and talks to his mom, and we get the great mom twist, the really good great character moment for what's her name, Nicole Kidman. Great
Mm-hmm.
work on that. You can feel her like just give it to this guy,
Yeah.
even to the point where she like almost like disgustingly almost kisses him. Like
I
there's just
know.
this weirdness to it, and she's just like, you would kill this king and have me for your queen. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
look, okay, we're getting a little too far here. Two Alabama slammers. Okay, all right.
I
All right.
know. Yeah, but at the end of that scene, I was like, yeah, she's got to die now.
Yeah, she definitely has to die. All right. Another weird kind of, not time consuming, but it was like a weird moment. So he runs away. They do the weird mushroom soup thing, get everybody crazy, kill the a bunch of the guards, and
Mm-hmm.
then he runs away, but for some reason doesn't take her.
Yeah.
And then the next scene, like they're like, oh, who was involved? And he has to come back to save her.
Mm-hmm.
And then they capture him. And then the Ravens get him out.
Yeah.
And then they run away anyway together. Like, it wasn't long, but it was like this kind of unnecessary. Like,
Yeah.
they could have just run away together after that.
Right. They could
And
have cut. Yeah, they could have cut that part. They could have had him captured and and then freed, and then two of them take off. Right.
right.
So,
It would have sped that up a little
yeah.
bit, little tighten up that script. So this is interesting. So they heal him up. They're in the wilderness. They get a boat. I don't know where they get a boat from. They're like, obviously no one's paying any attention because he's like, yeah, we're with the king. Yeah, yeah, we're
Yeah.
with the
There
king.
you go.
And they're the guys on the boats are like, okay, yeah, sure, just go, welcome aboard.
Right.
Um, and this is where you were talking about more magic is she declares that she's pregnant,
Yeah.
right? And he's like, oh, it's
Well,
twins. Oh
no,
shit.
actually, she doesn't tell him. He senses it.
I thought
He
he
touch-
sensed it was twins. I thought she told him she
no,
was
no. He
pregnant.
touches her belly and goes, "You're pregnant," and she goes, "I wanted to tell you when I knew we were safe."
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're
Right.
right.
And then
But
he goes, "There's twins also." So.
right, and then he has another vision, a repeat of
Hmm.
the vision of the Tree of Kings,
Yeah.
and he sees at some point earlier he was told there was going to be a woman king, right? And
Yeah.
he sees his son and his daughter,
Hmm.
but she's got the crown and the sword. pretty dope. So I love
Yeah.
that visual though. By the
Yeah, that
way,
was great. Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh shit! Well, if we're gonna have kids, I better finish my job," and jumps off the boat.
See you
She's
later.
like,
I know. I was like, oh
"Dude."
man.
She's like, we were good. We were
Yeah.
good. We were just gonna go.
Well,
Nobody was, and he's like, no,
I
they'll
hear this.
follow us.
There's a whole continent across the Atlantic Ocean we can go check out.
I doubt they'll find us. Like,
Right.
I don't think there will be another plot device where
I
they'll.
hear the natives are nice, you know,
Right, exactly. Something
but
called
no.
Canada. Something called Canada. They're really nice over there, I hear.
Your cousin Leif Erickson's over there. We can go see him.
Right. So yeah, he jumps off the boat and decides to go finish his life's work for some reason. And she's like, "All right, well, I can't do anything about that." And you're right. She like conjures. I don't know if she conjures up a storm or
It was
not.
like some kind of airbending spell.
And she's like, "All right, we have a long journey ahead. Let's
Yeah.
get going." So first thing he does is goes back to the house where his
Hmm.
parents are, and where his uncle and his mother were staying, and his mother comes out and attacks him with a knife,
Hmm.
and he's got to kill her. And then his little stepbrother comes out with a knife, attacks him in the back, and he's got to kill him. And then his uncle shows up, and he's like, we're not doing that here. Like, we need a cooler environment than this to fight, man. Let's a bigger room. Meet me in hell." And
Right.
apparently, hell is just a volcano,
Yep.
an active volcano.
They called it the Gates of Hell. They called it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And we get the real, like, a really cool ending to this final battle between the two rivals. Obviously, he's hurt. Otherwise, he should win easily, but he's been stabbed like 40 times.
Well, he got stabbed by the mother sliced him in the arm, and then
Mhm.
the young kid came out and stabbed him in the back like 10 times.
Right,
And I was like,
exactly.
oh, he's got to be dead. No, of course
Yeah.
not. He's fine.
No, he's fine. So they have a really, really great visual battle. It's really
Mhm.
cool, but it ends in the standard. They kill each other at the same time.
Yeah.
Stab, stab, and then
Yeah,
the
he
whole.
gets stabbed in the heart, but as he's getting stabbed, he slices the head off of Fjolnir.
Oh yeah, that's right. Full decapitation.
Yeah.
And the ending vision is he sees him flying into the gates of Valhalla.
Right.
So a really cool visual ending. But again, it depends on your reading of this. Is he seeing this because he's dying, and
Yeah.
people see a white light, go towards the light, or because Valhalla is real? Because he has seen what he thought was a Valkyrie carrying him to Valhalla before was really just his wife dragging him out from the barn and
Yeah.
saving his life. And so it's just this back and forth. Overall, great production value. Maybe a little overly costly for what I saw. Could have, especially with you're shooting on location in Iceland. I can't imagine that's very expensive.
Yeah, they shot in Iceland and Ireland for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But it's a beautiful looking film. It wavers between some very much almost completely black and white to
That's what I thought
bright,
too. I was like, wait, is this black and white or color? Like,
and then it went back to like color, and then it was like all black and white.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I couldn't, and maybe if I watched it a second time, which I'm not going to, I could tell like maybe it has something to do with his mood, maybe it has something to do with his feelings or with how close he is to his accomplishment. I don't know. I'm sure there's probably a reason for it, but I on first viewing I didn't see one.
Yeah.
But I would, yeah. Why don't we give it a grade in our final thoughts on this movie? Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So, like I said, I actually enjoyed this film. I know some of our other crew were like they couldn't get into it.
They couldn't finish it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what real reason why it's just the two of us.
Yeah, and it did start slow, but the story kept me interested. Like I was expecting more of like what you call an epic, story, like battles and battles, but the actual story itself was what kept me interested, uh, and the acting and the production kept me going. It could have been, I agree with you, probably 20 to 30 minutes shorter would have been perfect. And so for that, I'm gonna give it a B minus.
Yeah, the same thing. Like I said, I paused it because I was like, this is really really taking its time, and I don't mind. Like we just watched Severance, and Severance takes its time. It does not build immediately, but I think this for me there were gaps in where the story was really interesting and it would peak and kind of valley for me. Like Bajork shows up and it's really cool, and then there's kind of like this valley of stuff, and uh, some weird intermittent unnecessary journeys for the guy to go play sports or something, that kind of stuff, for an already long movie. Yeah, I'm gonna go with B. I'm heading towards B plus. I think the acting was really good, um, very solid, though simple camera work, and very very, but it's definitely art film style as opposed to what was advertised as a really cool like action film with some arty drama, right?
Yeah,
So
and I
the
think that's probably what turned people off. Like word of mouth got out that hey, this isn't like some Lord of the
Mhm.
Rings type adventure. So you know,
And you could go either way. I think they could build something around this same plot that was tighter but also a little bit more exciting, but
yeah.
they went with the very heavy drama, you know, magic, is it real, is it not, questions, and all of that stuff, what's in his head, what's not in his
Hmm.
head. um
Yeah,
I
I think he made it more character based than anything, right? So
and like we're giving it solid grades. Like we're
yeah, oh
not
for
saying
sure,
it's a
yeah.
bad movie. I'm interested in his other work now, but now I
Hmm.
kind of know maybe what to expect out of him.
All right.
Yeah, Mike, where can people find us? Tell us what art house movies they would like us to talk about more.
So yeah, if you want to discuss this and any other art house film, we are all over the internet at Heroes Peak. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment below. Let us know.
No matter what our name says, we do not just talk about superheroes. We like all sorts of films,
Oh
all
yeah,
sorts of TV shows, and we like to expand our palette a little bit. But
yeah, for sure.
next week, we are diving back into the world of multiverses. Can't wait to see that one. That pretty
Yeah,
excited with all the positive stuff I've heard out of uh, everything, everywhere, all at once.
yeah,
All right, Mike, thanks for joining me. I had a
no
good
problem.
time, and see you later, everybody.
Good night.